Welcome back to All the Crackers in the Box. Hi, it's me, your friend Corey again. Today is a little different. We are going to talk a little bit about cross stitch. A subscriber has requested that I talk about it, so sure, why not? Let's talk about cross stitch today. Glad you're here. Okay, let's talk cross stitch. Cross stitch is patterns on a grid, and each little piece here, each little square, is one stitch, which is an X. You go one way and then the other. Most people use DMC for their floss. Let me grab one here. And they usually look like this when you get them. There's 6 strands, so depending on it, might tell you need 2 strands, so you just would pull out 2, maybe 3, maybe 4, or all 6. All depends. You don't have to use them on all. If you want to do a little thinner, that's totally fine. My mother and I usually put them on these little guys here, mark them with the number, and then they're easier to store because these can get really messy because these will fall right off in a bag, so just to forewarn you. Okay, now if you're doing a kit, you've got it made in the sand if it's your first try. A kit will have your colors, your materials cut already, everything is good to go, and you just can go. Start where you are going to start. Most people will tell you to start in the middle. I say find your middle spot, put a little pencil mark lightly. You don't want it too dark because you don't want to end up having to try to cover it later. And then start where you want to start. Where you think you can go from, because it is all interweaving. So for example, on this one in particular, I started at the bottom. I'm going up instead of down. Most of the time, you go down. And that's fine. That's how I want to do this one. So that's how I'm going to do this one. And I know everyone is very concerned about techniques and things like that, which is important. But it's not going to be the be-all or end-all, and it's not going to ruin your project. You can go however you want, as long as you make your X's. There are many ways to hold your material. There are big ones like this. This is my Lala Loopsie that I've made for my daughter. This is not a pattern to buy or anything like that. This is something that I am making for her that is sort of a copy of something else I've seen, and I'm doing the best I can with it, and yeah, I'm not too crazy about this eye. But anyway, this is a bigger frame, and you sew on your material. Well, you're supposed to, but I really don't understand that. I didn't want to do it. My mom said that you're supposed to, and I just don't. And yeah, so this is our bigger one for the biggest pieces. So if you're doing a giant one, you'd want one of these. If per se, where are you, sir? Ah, right here. Say you're doing something small, like this one. This one's only going to have feet down to about here. He's not that big. It's all head. It's all head. Now, this is the most common kind you'll find. Just a plastic ring. I don't think I put them on right, but I like them like this. I find, for me, they stay tighter. So this side up, it says, gotta be careful, I've got a needle hiding in here, so I know where it is. You pull it out, and you want this to be as tight as possible. Like sometimes, like the cat one, I'm doing without And that's for the effect. I want it to look a little more older, but this one is, I want it to be sharp. So I want to make sure all my stitches are super tight. So you want to pull up really nice and tight, get all the wrinkles out. One piece of advice though, if you plan on walking away for a while, take this off. Don't leave it sitting for too long on here, like for weeks. It can cause problems with your thread later. So, just do up this part, screw it or unscrew it, and it should go. Now you're going to have a few different options for materials. This one in particular is a vinyl. I don't know if these are easy to come by anymore, but they were for a while. This one actually comes with a needle in it. Can't go wrong. It was found at a garage sale or a thrift store long ago. And your most common kind is going to be 80. This I got at Walmart. It's DMC. It's 14 count, which is the size for how big your holes are and everything. So if it's a 16 count, it's going to be smaller. If it's 12 count, it's going to be bigger, which means you got to use more floss to cover it. So this one's white. We have 14 count, and it's 15 inches by 18 inches, or 38.1 by 45.7 centimeters. This is a good size piece. Can't go wrong. This here is 36 count, which means the squares are absolutely terribly tiny. And this is Irish linen. Linen is very fine. And if you take a really good look there, you might be able to see it. It's hard to say. But it is absolutely fine. It is beautiful. It is for very, very special things. Like if you were to, say, grab out some of the metallics, which are very difficult to use. Let's see here. What else do I have? Okay. I know what I was going to talk about. I will show you my embarrassment. Again, a fancy container. This one I've done since my early 20s, okay? It is in terrible shape. I have not taken care of it. I messed up somewhere in here, and everything's going slightly crooked, and nothing is working out the way it should, and I am super disappointed in myself, so I'm probably going to have to redo it because I absolutely love this picture. And this 80 is not doing well, so I'm either going to take it all apart or whatever. I don't know. I have to decide what to do. But what I did to keep the fraying on the edges was I put some tape on the sides to keep this edge from fraying. But this one got a little bit damaged. I believe this is water damage. But I've got all the colors in here, and I have way too more than I needed. So that is on my to-do list for myself because it is something I wanted really bad. Okay, so I've showed you quite a bit of the basics. You have your floss. You have to know how many strands. It will say 2 strands. It'll tell you how many lines to go over. So you'll see these little boxes. We're going to do it this way. I'm going to change my view. You're going to come down and take a look at what I've got going on here. Hold up. Okay. To bring you a little bit closer. So I am looking for number 939. Just make sure I even have that one. I do have 939 in here. So I used to carry this all in this plastic bag. Don't ask me why I still have it in here. I just do. So I'm looking for number 939. It was a blue. 7, 3, 926. No, it's a dark color. That's black. Is that it? 939. Awesome. I actually need this for the unicorn too. So this one has already been separated. See right here, I'm pulling off a strand of 2. No longer than that should be, right? You don't want to go too long. It's tempting, like super crazy tempting to go super long with these. But what happens is you end up with a higher chance of tangling them, taking the shine off, and tangling them. Okay? Tangling them. I don't have my wax with me, but most of the time, after we've gotten it threaded onto the needle, I take a piece of wax and I wax it like a beeswax. And that'll help keep it from becoming too tangled. So I took this back here, and a lot of people will tell you your back end needs to look the same. That's up to you. I don't worry about it. Sorry. I don't worry about it simply because I don't plan on this being front and back. So I'm just going to pull this out. Another thing I don't do that other people do is I don't do knots. I do not even knot at the beginning. What I do, I'm going to pop that through. And 2 is pretty thick. That's a lot to be putting in such a thin piece. Okay. So we are going to go, we're going to start at the top up here. And now, this is what I personally do. I just run it behind other stitches. Just work your way through. You want to go through a few of them to make sure it's locked into place. And I went through the material, not the stitch. So watch out for that. Oh, that's enough right there. Gently pull it through if you can. I do my stitches really tightly. Okay. Now, what you're going to want to do, keep this guy secure. So you're going to put your finger on top here. And our first 2 stitches are going to be right in here. So especially for this first one, what's going to end up happening is if you're not holding that tail, when you go to pull it through, you're taking everybody with you. And that didn't, see, just like that. So, we'll do that again. Alright, nice and easy. And that's even how I start it. I leave a tail, I hold that tail for at least 2 stitches till I'm sure that I got it covered, and then we go from there. And you wouldn't be putting this in the washing machine anyways, you would only hand wash it. So I'm not too worried about it coming undone. And we're going over 1, and now this is just 1 box. So there's 1 space, just 1 diagonal. Then we go back the other way to finish our X's. That is a deeply satisfying sound. And yes, I know online there's a lot of people talking about how the backs need to be perfect. I don't subscribe to that simply because I'm just happy to be making the front look good. It's not how my grandma taught me. The one, believe me, she did some gorgeous pieces. Two, and 3. And because I would have to carry that back, I'm just going to leave that one till I come back around, because this is basically the only spot I really need this for. And just like that. So we're going to leave that one half done. And then the next one, I only need one down here. So you can either string it through, or you can just go straight across. I just like to go straight across most of the time when it's that small. And again, that is totally your choice. I'm going to mark these off because I get very confused very quickly. Need to put that and go like that. No, that's not right either. I need the axis. I'm going to use my program for a little while, can you tell? 1, 2, and 1. And this program's really neat. It will take pictures and turn them into cross stitch, or you could use it as a GraphGAN for your crochet. And I also like that it keeps track of how many colors, what colors you need, how many stitches you're doing. So I can keep track of how many stitches I do per sitting. For no apparent reason, but sometimes I like to know. Simple as that. You go in this corner between, and you're just going to a small diagonal, unless you're doing a longer stitch, like my cat one. Okay, so I believe this one might be a 16 count. This is an oatmeal 80 cloth. It's quite vintage. My mom had gotten quite a bit of it, so I have a bit of it left to work with. So you can see these little dark blue ones I just put in. Look on the back. And see, you can't even tell where the tail is. I can pull on that, and it's not going to come out because the tail is nice and secure. So I'm just going to tuck that in. So basically, if you can do a paint by number, you can handle this. You just have to keep the same principles in mind, that there's going to be a few shades in every area to give the effect. I do like back stitching, which is basically just outlining your work. I did a Ninja Turtle one, and it really needed the back stitching. There was no way I could leave it, and I'm glad I did. It really brought the picture to life. And the program I'm using here is eCanvas for cross stitch, and I have the Pro. Don't mind my picture of Will Ferrell there. So eCanvas for cross stitch. I have the main one, and then I have the Pro one. The Pro one gives you a little bit more. I don't know if it's still available. I'd have to look to see. Now I'm going to show you on the cat one that's out of this Stitcher's World magazine from 2002. Here's a paper. This one I chose a bigger. See, this is so much bigger. And grab the other one. And if you look at the size between the two, my Spider-Man is definitely on a very much smaller scale for the little boxes. This one's bigger. And I'm also doing much bigger stitches. If you look closely here, we're going across one in the middle. With the Spider-Man one, I'm going right to here. This one, I'm skipping over it. So there's a space in between to make it even longer. I wanted this one to be a very large piece because it's absolutely amazing. So there's that. keep that in mind when you're doing it if you're going to be doing that, because that does take care of the math. But if you are starting with just a kit, hold your end, hold it securely, do a couple, make sure that the end is underneath your stitch when you're first going in. Make sure that you wrap around it the first time. But if you want to do a knot, by all means, do a knot. Do what's most comfortable to make this a very pleasant experience for yourself. We will probably look at cross stitch again, being that I really enjoy doing it, and it's a nice little change up, and it is a bit slower. I love the sound it makes. And yeah, I'm going to get this one done so I can get on to my giant one. Yes? Hopefully that helps. Yeah. Oh. Now, one piece of advice before I forget. Start. Let me grab my pattern here. Alright, so this is my pattern for this. Okay. You're going to want to have marked off on your material at the very least where your middle piece is. Where's your middle stitch? So that way you can go out. But if you want to start at the top, like I did with this one, I still lined it up to the middle so I could line up this beginning without making it too far on one side or another. So I think I started with one of these ones. Right about here was the middle, and I just marked it off on the material with a tiny pencil mark. And then we measured all the way up, and then I started up in here because I like to start at the top most of the time. The cat one I started on the bottom. So you want to make sure you know where your middle point is. By all means, there are people who grid them. I'm not sure if they use pencils or not. You'll have to definitely check that for yourself. I'm kind of intimidated by it, but I think they use maybe a water-soluble sewing pencil, is what I'm assuming, that washes off when you go to wash it. So there's that. And they make grids. And they just work inside the grids. Kind of like what you do with diamond art. Some people do that. So diamond art is also another very similar type. The dots that you're gluing onto your paper or canvas are actually the same colors as DMC for cross stitching or embroidery floss. So there's that. Yeah, basically if you can follow that pattern, take your time. It does frog pretty easily. Believe me, I've done it many times. You can go backwards with it quite easily. And yeah, it's a lot of fun. So if you're going to try cross stitching, for sure, maybe for your first few, do a really small knot and then work it in and maybe cut it out afterwards. You could try that just in case. Experiment a little. Definitely, I like to hold mine. So I could hold it up against the thing and I do my stitch over and then over again and then I come back and then come back again. So then it ends up wrapping into itself, kind of like this yarn is. Anyway, I think I've rambled on long enough. If we need to revisit it, let me know, and I definitely recommend just put in basics of cross stitching in your YouTube search, and you should find some probably more extensive, more easy to follow videos than mine. But I hope I gave you a little idea of where to start from, and I really hope it works out because cross stitch is a lot of fun. Thanks for joining here at All the Crackers in the Box, and I'll see you again very soon. Bye.